Now let's focus on you, kind of when you graduated university, that being point A. How do you go from point A to point B? B being TribalScale, being a co-founder. How did you pivot from being, or why did you pivot from being an employee to a co-founder?
Cool. I'll break it up into kind of like three jumps. So maybe an A, B, C.
I like it.
C being TribalScale.
Yep.
So I studied mechanical engineering in school, not software. And when I graduated, I went straight into mechanical engineering. I did that for probably 3.5 years, and I started getting this kind of like feeling of like I really just was not satisfied in what I was doing. I was 3.5 years out of school, so with that's like, I don't know, 24, 25, something like that. And the idea of doing that until I was 60 like scared the hell out of me. Okay. It was at that point that I knew a change needed to be made. I started studying for my GMAT. I started looking at school programs again, being like, should I go back to school and actually study software, because I'd always been super into tech, and I became obsessed with it. And so from going from my 25th birthday to probably just about being 27 is where I figured all that out. And I got lucky enough where I really leveraged my network. And I had a number of people in my network that were software developers and working at various companies. And given I was so kind of startup focused, I was spending a lot of time with these people, kind of like thinking ideas, brainstorming, like hypothesizing of like a business we could one day create. And I guess what that ended up doing is I really built my relationship and foundation of that I actually knew about the tech ecosystem and what was going on. And one day, one of them literally called me and was like, "Hey, Mitch, my company has this opening for a product manager position. It sounds a lot like the kind of stuff you're interested in. Do you want me to refer you? Do you want to come in?" At that time, I had no idea what product was or a product manager, but I immediately jumped at it. And I came in, I did the rounds of interviews, and kind of didn't really hear anything for some time. So I was still kind of on the MBA path, thinking what I was going to do next. And then, 3 months later or so, I forget the exact time frame, but it was super long. They called me and they're like, "Hey, Mitch, you still interested in that product job?" And I literally dropped everything I was doing and I joined Extreme Labs. And that was kind of the start of my tech career. They were very clear to me about, hey, like, we don't normally hire somebody that's got zero direct experience or at least doesn't come from a software background. So this was a risk. I kind of acknowledged that risk and was like, you know what, like, I'm still in it. Like, I'm going to give it my all and make this something. And that's where I was for the next 3.5 years. We went through an acquisition there. I literally gave it all, my all, as I said, and I got exposed to like all kinds of opportunities. It was working there that I got the opportunity to work with like Uber, SurveyMonkey, a number of big enterprise brands, and actually like ship some products, which put a lot of great experience under my belt. And then it was also through that experience that I had the opportunity to actually work at 2 other offices. So I got to go to Denver for 3 months, learn a new team there. And when they opened up a new office in Washington, D.C., I got to be employee number 2 going there. So I actually had this feeling of being an initial like boots on the ground in a new office, like hiring the first people, figuring out office space, like just it felt like I had a little taste of an opportunity of starting my own company and building it. And that was the initial spark of like, man, this is like really, really exciting. Not only do I love being in tech and building product, but this idea of being empowered to like leave your mark on something and make something fresh and new was super exciting. And I just, that happened at approximately the same time. A few other people from our company were starting to talk about potentially building a company together. And it was at that time I put up my hand like very high and I was really, really into this. Another thing to note with that, there's obviously, I was at Pivotal at the time, which was the company that acquired Extreme. There's a lot of initial like stress or worry that came into like leaving this super stable thing. I just went through an acquisition. Like that's something most people love to experience. And there's kind of a solid path ahead for myself, right? Maybe I go somewhere else, start a new office, a whole bunch of things could have happened. But I chose to kind of put it all on the line and, start TribalScale and essentially write a big check and take no salary for a bunch of months. And something that a lot of people always are curious about, like, geez, like wasn't that a tough decision? At the time, I think I thought it was a tough decision. In retrospect, I think I've completely realized it was not a tough decision at all. What was happening at the time is I was at Pivotal, leading a pretty good career, and I was hearing from headhunters kind of, every, multiple a week essentially. And suddenly I got in this position of like, geez, so if I start this new thing, it could really only go, one of two things is going to happen, right? It's either going to be successful and this will be an amazing opportunity, like money's not going to matter, it'll just come, all the good things, or it'll fail and it's going to be like an amazing learning opportunity and I'm just going to go and call one of the recruiters that called me like last week and go and get a job that was probably paying more than my other job anyways. So it kind of felt scary at the time, but it ended up being like actually a really safe thing to do if I ended up being super logical about it.
Wow. And so that's how you went from A, B, and then C.
Yeah, C being the beginning of TribalScale.
Okay.
Yeah.